So, so I often hear people talking about the future, and they're basically, I don't think they think of it. This is how they're modeling the future. They're trying to see what's going to happen, and basically for me, that's all about modeling, predictive modeling. And I mean that's not how they think of it. They're just worried about the future, and they see what's going on, and what they do is they see what's happening and the trend that's happening, and they push that out in the future, and they say, well, if this just keeps happening, it's not going to be good. And so I think sometimes one of the flaws is that actually, we're human beings, things are happening, we're going to react to that. But there's three other things that they don't know that I do know. So my model for projecting into the future is different because I know of three things that are going to happen in the not too distant future and that are going to affect everything. And when you can integrate those into your model, into your predictive modeling, because they're not present in the system now, but they will be in the not too distant future, and you can see how these things are going to have a massive impact. It just changes your modeling. And the lesson from this is that timing matters. That's the lesson that comes from this modeling. So one of the things that's going to happen is, and I've written about it, I've explained it, I've got a book, I've got a website, that untreated human distress is going to come to an end across the world because it's so very treatable. With just the 2 steps, I call it 2-step recovery, so on. And I get into it a bit more in the research that backs that up and all that stuff in the book. But that's going to end, untreated human. And the impact of that, then you go, what impact does that have? Obviously, there's a massive impact, a systemic impact in how things operate in the world. And the other thing is we're going to become aware of the completed model of the human species, which again will have a huge impact on how we operate, how we think about things, how we understand what's going on, and that's going to have a huge impact in a very positive way. So both of those things are going to be very positive and very helpful, help us manage things much better in our lives and across the whole world. And the other thing is this wonderful app is going to come into existence. It just gives us feedback about well-being, about the well-being and welfare of everybody, of you individually, your community, your country, the world. And it's going to be, comprehensive in terms of that. The feedback has to be comprehensive. It's going to be consistent and reliable. It's going to be accurate in the sense that it can communicate you the limitations of its accuracy and help you interpret it correctly. And it's going to have a suitable frequency. But anyway, when this app kicks in, and it's just giving people information, it's not telling anybody to do anything, but this hugely changes everything because it relates to the fundamental problem that we're facing as a species, which is the primary disorder, which is, as I say, in the completed model, we understand since the Neolithic Revolution, we haven't been correctly responding to what happened and taking responsibility to manage the welfare and well-being of ourselves, the species, because prior to that, some other stuff was going on. Well, check out the book, A Completed Model, if you want to know about that. So those 3 things are going to happen: ending untreated human distress, completed model of the human species, and awakening of humankind to that. And all that comes from that, all the response and activity and rising up that comes from that. It's wonderful. And then this app. This technology is going to come in. So, and those are very wonderful things, take care of a lot of problems, help avoid a lot of bad things happening. But the lesson here is that time matters. The sooner these 3 things happen, the better off. A lot of damage, a lot of adversity, a lot of risk. A lot of things won't happen and a lot of risk will be significantly mitigated. So time matters. So let's rise up. I've been telling the world for 30 years about the completed model, and so far, nobody's paid any attention, but I think we really need to, because things are heating up now. We got to wake up to it. And I've been working for 10 years consistently trying to tell people how simple it is to move from, suffering in terms of psychological well-being and dysfunction in life, that kind of suffering, from being untreated to being treated. And again, not one person has echoed or mirrored or, I think they've seen my work and said, it's great, you're really good at what you do. Yeah, that makes sense. But nobody said, yeah, let's do this. Nobody has awakened or risen to this. So it's important. If you should hear what I'm saying, if you should, read these books and say, oh, now I see how to end untreated human distress. So now I see this is the completed model of the human species, which is very obvious once you see it. It's funny, it's one of those things that before it happens, nobody can see it. And then after it happens, everybody can see it because it's very straightforward. Even, the most developed, advanced, intelligent minds of our time can't see it. But in a generation, children will quite clearly see, oh yes, that's how you correctly respond to this kind of human suffering, the psychological and the struggling to function while suffering. There's 2 steps. And even children will understand the completed model in their own way, and appreciate the previous understanding was obviously incomplete. I mean, obviously incomplete. But that's the nature of change, and it happens slowly at first, and then it happens fast. I think we need to move on to the fast piece. So if you were one of those people who sees this, do not underestimate the significance of the fact that you have awoken to these things. And join, talk to me, connect, participate in social media, check out the books, tell your friends, be the first few to rise, because that is no small thing. Because so far, after 30 years working on that completed model, explaining to people, after 10 years telling people nobody has risen, nobody has awoken, because they're looking around and saying nobody else is doing this. This is different. This is, not how we do it. But if you are one of those, do not for 1 minute fail to recognize the significance of the fact that you've awoken, and that you can live an amazing and significant life by simply sharing this, letting other people know, participating in the social media aspect of things, and spreading the message, and allowing these 2 things to happen and change the world sooner. So be one of those people that awakens and rises, one of the first few.